Running barefoot, eating sweets, and the first day of kindergarten. It's what most girls like you worry about. You know it's true because you have seen it on the big TV. A little girl like yourself is supposed to worry only about receiving enough love from parents, enough kindness from friends, and enough presents from Santa Claus. Yet, you know that is not your reality. You have to worry about not taking cover fast enough. You have to worry about your mother not coming home from work. You have to worry about even having a future. Until one day, your family, they've had enough. You pack your favorite shirt and a pair of pants, and you leave your home forever. You walk for miles, hoping to escape the war that has forever ripped you from your home. You pray that you will find a community that will accept you as their own. And above all, you hope for the mercy of the foreign government. Finally, you reach the border. You escape. You make it. This is the story of 7-year-old Aliyah, who had to leave her home in Aleppo, Syria abruptly, and is currently living in Lebanon. Aliyah was able to flee because of the aid of Gruppo Aleimar, an Italian NGO. Aiken has a similar story, as she saw 7 of her 8 children killed by war, escaped from South Sudan, and is currently living in a refugee camp in Uganda. Aiken received help through Hope Ofihara, a Norwegian NGO. Yet Aliyah and Aiken's stories, they are unique. Why? Well, because they are of success. The reality is, however, that there are over 89.3 million forcibly displaced people. I'm going to repeat that, 89.3 million. And out of those, 36.5 million, well, they're just like Aliyah, in that they are merely children. The number of forcibly displaced people, it's ever growing. And as it grows, the fate of refugees must be decided not by a few who hold all the national power, but by all who form part of humanity. It's simple. A nation's government is responsible for its citizens and their rights. Yet it should not hold the authority to remove rights from others outside its domain. A nation's president, prime minister, king, Senate, or Congress should not get to deny the future of millions of innocent victims of war. Yet today, we see that conflicts between heads of state hinder refugees from entering a country. Millions of forcibly displaced people are denied entry to the nearest safe haven simply because the relations between the two nations are conflicted by governments. The current system at play makes it so that each government can label refugees simply on their country of origin, and then deny their entry, or sometimes even the right of passage. But let me be clear when I say this. Everyone should be allowed to have access to asylum and to seek asylum. It is a basic human right. And as a result, relations between nations are simply too important to be left to governments alone. The world has seen time and time again that humanitarian crises extend far beyond borders. And shouldn't they then extend far beyond a single government's control? And while it may seem that many governments do provide access to some asylum, the reality is most of these millions of refugees actually lie only within 5 countries' borders: Turkey, Uganda, Nauru, Jordan, and Lebanon. The rest, however, well, they're countries that have governments that allow almost no access to asylum. Take Japan, for example, which is the world's 3rd largest economy and a population of 126 million. Its government has received just over 1,100 refugees in the last 10 years. For context, that's 0.001% of the country's population. Unfortunately, there is a lack of government willingness to increase aid in step with the increasing number of people who need help. Yet, the crisis that these refugees face, it's basic necessities. And when humans' basic necessities and safety is threatened, isn't it time to then break apart the barriers of these governments? Because when it comes to refugees, our humanity has to come first. Humanitarian crises, they require aid, not political stances. In the beginning, I told you the story of Aiken and of Aliyah, and now I tell you the story of Zainar, a 20-year-old Iraqi man who drowned off the coast of Calais on his way to Great Britain, I'd tell you the story of Mustafa from Yemen, who died of cold and fatigue while trying to cross into Poland from Belarus. Mustafa and Zainar's stories, they're not unique. There are thousands of stories like theirs, but they should be unique. They should be the outliers. They should not even exist. But before that can happen, we need to first recognize our humanity, because humanitarian crises require aid, not political stances. Thank you.
Thank you, Valeria, for such a heartfelt speech. I would now like to invite the audience to ask any questions they might have for Valeria. Yes.
Hi, thank you for the wonderful speech. So from a morality point of view, definitely for those countries or governments who are not directly involved in any humanitarian crisis should reach out a helping hand. However, from a practicality or action point of view, how should they do that?
The main issue at hand is that often when countries are accepting aid, the refugees are accepted in regards to their country of origin, right? So say like Donald Trump's Muslim ban, right? That simply banned any kind of aid that could occur because the people that were coming from were Muslim, point blank. The problem is then that they don't recognize that these people need help. So then what needs to occur is that each case is reviewed on the person's scenario and not in what country they are coming from, if that makes any sense. Yeah, thank you.
I think we have a further question from the gentleman in the charcoal blazer.
Well, thank you for your speech. Do you think that international law should prevent countries from exporting their asylum seekers?
Should prevent from exporting?
Their asylum seekers, because there are countries, there have been examples in the UK and Australia where asylum seekers are transported to third countries to be processed whilst waiting in these third countries. In other words, asylum seekers are being exported after they arrive at a country's borders.
I get what you mean. I definitely think that needs to change, and like you said, definitely through international law. I don't know if you heard when I was mentioning the 5 countries, the most overlying and common factor is that they're developing countries. So often it's the developing countries that receive the most amount of refugees as opposed to the countries that have the most available resources. Obviously, it's understandable that a country needs to first take care of its citizens, but especially when there is an overflow of resources or aid that could be used and could be more evenly distributed, it's important that then these governments are the ones that actually take action as opposed to then sort of shipping the problem away to a different country, especially because often these countries are the ones that have the least amount of resources available.